Alrighty, folks, so we have made it to my favorite day of the year. It is time to harvest the garlic. And we have been on like a serious journey over the last 9 months, from starting them in the pouring rain on October 20th to then getting like 18 inches or a foot and a half of snow, and that just sitting on the beds for about 6 weeks or so, to then essentially like the coldest spring that we've had in I don't know how many years. So it has been a journey the last 9 months, but I'm really excited and looking forward to harvesting this all. And the reason why I'm so excited to be harvesting all of it is because I have about 4 different experiments going on in the beds there. And today I'm gonna start figuring out how did each of those perform. So what we're going to go through in this video is essentially my harvest, but also all the different experiments that I've been running and some of the kind of initial results that we're seeing from that. So with that being said, let's just start diving straight in here. And so the first group that we're going to harvest right here is our control group. And this is the garlic that I planted the exact same way as I did in 2021 when I had a great harvest. So this past October, on October 20th, I planted my garlic into the bed here, and that was a red Russian variety that I was going with. And the spacing that I went on with these ones is 6 inches apart from one another. And in each of the holes that I was planting into, I gave a little sprinkle of worm castings. And then for the depth, I went 4 inches deep. After that, I simply covered them up. And after I had the whole bed planted, I put a leaf mulch over top to tuck them in for the winter. And then come springtime, I took that leaf mulch off, and then I fed them about 1 tablespoon of our superfood per square foot, and then put down a compost mulch to get them a little bit more nutrition, a little bit more microbial life, and a little bit more insulation as we moved through the spring there. So what I want to do first here is begin harvesting up that control group. Oh baby, the first pull here. So nervous and so excited. That's the sound that we want to hear. Oh yeah. Alrighty, second head. There we go. Look at that. Beauty. All right, so the control group is harvested, and I'm really happy with how we did on that front there. I would say that it is like a solid harvest, like one that I'm happy with, but one that isn't like blowing expectations out of the water or anything along those lines. And I wasn't expecting anything along those lines because we've just had really challenging growing conditions this whole season. As a matter of fact, like I have not watered my garlic a single time this year because of the amount of just overcast and rain that we got through the springtime there. So really happy with where it's at. And the beauty of having these experiments is now I get to see, is there anything that I was able to do to ultimately get an even better harvest than that control group. So the first experiment that I ran right beside our control group was all around phosphorus, and what impact does phosphorus have on growing garlic. And so back in October, on the exact same day that I planted the control group, I grabbed another 15 cloves and I planted them 6 inches apart as well, 4 inches deep, and I added a sprinkling of worm castings. But then the key and only difference that I did with this set of garlic was that I also added 1 teaspoon of bat guano. Now bat guano, and the one that I was utilizing, has a 0.180 NPK, so really high in phosphorus. And the thinking behind this is that phosphorus is really good for root development, and because garlic is a rooted crop, it's better to have a high phosphorus feed than a high nitrogen feed. So this experiment hopefully will give us a little bit of insight on that and what type of impact it has. Other than that, everything was the exact same as our control group, so the only difference was that this got a phosphorus feed. And let's get to it and harvesting our phosphorus experiment. Alrighty, here we go. Definitely took a little bit of muscle to get that one out. Keep on cruising along here. Alrighty, so another good crop that we have coming out there, and I would actually say looking quite similar to what we had in the control group, but we won't make any kind of final verdicts or anything along those lines until we actually get them on the scale a little bit later. So now let's dive into the next experiment, and this is one that I am so excited by, and I've been seeing some really interesting things above the surface. So just before I dive into that, if you're enjoying the video here, I really encourage you to subscribe to our channel here. Put out new videos every single week, and I'm always running all kinds of wild little experiments experiments in the garden, try and figure out what helps the plants grow absolutely best. So you're going to get tons of really cool learnings from the channel here. Now, with this next experiment, what I wanted to figure out was, does planting large cloves of garlic equal larger heads of garlic? And so in order to run this experiment, what I did back in October on the exact same date as our control group was I also went through all the garlic that I was planting. And I found the 15 biggest cloves of garlic that I could find out of all of them. And then I also found the 15 smallest cloves of garlic so we could get a little bit of contrast in there. And then what I did was I planted them right beside one another. The only difference is that the first row has the largest cloves of garlic that I could find out of everything I had. And then the next row right over from it is the 15 smallest cloves of garlic that I could find. And so what we're going to do next year is begin harvesting. And I actually want to start with our small cloves and save the bigger cloves for the second part.
And as we can see here, they're definitely looking smaller than the other heads I've had in the garden. And they're definitely harvested a little bit smaller too. Another tiny one. Oh, this is so interesting.
Alrighty, now it's time for the large ones, and this feels like it's the main event. I am excited for this.
Oh baby, here we go. Oh yeah! That's what we're talking about. Oh, we got honkers. I mean, come on. Look at that. Alrighty, this one here is an absolute girth monster. Look at that, baby. Okay, here we go. Are you kidding me right now? Somebody ring the honker alarm. And we ain't done yet, folks. This one's also looking obnoxiously large. Look at how much soil's breaking. Are you serious? Oh my gosh. That is unreal.
All right, that was pretty cool to see, and clearly some big differences on that front. And I'm going to be really curious to see how big of a difference it has when we actually get them on the scale and even compare them to the control group there. So now the last experiment that I have in this bed here was on the spacing front. So everything that I've done up until now has been at 6-inch spacing and 6-inch intervals. But for the remainder of the bed, and I also put one hole in the middle of each of these rows. And this is what's called off-center spacing. And so what actually ends up happening here is that each of the heads of garlic is going to be growing 3 inches apart from one another, but in a way where there's still a decent amount of space between them. And so what we're going to do next here is harvest that side of the bed out and see, did that spacing end up making it a little bit too tight and result in smaller heads, or was that actually enough space for them to grow just as well, but now we're fitting even more in the bed.
Here we go. Oh, that's good. Nice one. Off-centered one. That's a nice one. Gosh. This is super interesting. I know that I only planted one clove in here, but there's 3 stems that have grown. So I've been wondering about what's going on here for months and months. Let's find out. Oh, the triple head. Wow, that's something. Let's continue along into the home stretch. Oh, whopper there.
All right, so that actually grew really well, and I think they did have enough space there, but we won't know until we get them onto the scale, which we're gonna chat about in just a second, but I forgot. There's one more set of garlic that I am really excited to harvest, and that is 3 heads of elephant garlic.
Alrighty, and so just look at the size of these stalks compared to that pencil there. Oh boy, here we go. Yep, that is a large head of garlic. Holy cow. Beautiful too, wow. I'm really almost surprised with how beautiful this head is. Next one up, gotta get a good stance on it here. Yeah. Hello. Final head of garlic for the year. Honktown.
Whew. And just like that, another garlic season is in the books. And to be completely honest with you, I'm like really thrilled with just how everything did. You know, we've had a really cold, really just had like tough spring from a growing perspective. So to see things grow as well as they did here, and to be pulling out some of the biggest heads and potentially the biggest heads of garlic that I've ever grown in a year like this, gets me really excited for this upcoming season. And even on top of that, all of those learnings from the experiments that I'm going to be able to apply into this upcoming planting in October, I'm really excited about that. And with that being said, I actually can't get to those final results right now because I need to wait 10 to 14 days to allow this garlic to dry and to cure before we then chop off the neck and the roots. So if you want to see those really specific results on how, say, the phosphorus experiment went, or the big cloves versus the small cloves, or the off-centered one, which I think is going to be really interesting, then I really encourage you to subscribe to the channel here, because you're going to then be notified when we launch those videos as we go into the garlic planting season, and you're going to be able to apply all of the learnings to your upcoming crop. And then if you did want to get your hands on one of our garlic kits here, really encourage you to check out the link down in the description of this video. We do have a limited supply of them for this 2022 season, and I think those are going to get sold out pretty quickly just because people have been having so much success with it this past season, but really hope that you're able to get your hands on one of them. Other than that, it's been so fun growing garlic with everybody in the garlic gang this past season. I'm already super excited for October and getting the next round into the beds here. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments. Other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Go get those hands dirty. I'll see you soon.